It's been a while since the last time I've been to the gym. It was right before the Terry Harper fight, weren't it, Tasha? And now it's a completely different situation. You got a mega fight that Joe secured again. Not been a bad year, has it, Joe, in terms of securing mega fights for your stable? You've got to both be pleased with this.
Yeah, I'm usually thrilled to bits for Natasha. Obviously, her fight last year with Terry Harper, it was the first all-female English world title fight. It was voted by the Ring magazine of the female fight of the year, and everyone who viewed it that night was totally enthralled with the fight. And we didn't get the decision that we wanted, but everyone all around the world knows we won that world title, and I look at Natasha as a world champion in my eyes. So it was great for Natasha to be given the opportunity to lock horns again with her old amateur rival, Katie. 9 years in the making, or friends reunited, whichever one you want to take. It's good. Katie's gone on and done brilliant as a professional, won all the belts. As I said earlier, Tasha's a world champion in my eyes, and it's great that the two of them are locking horns again. And like I say, got to thank Brian Peters for giving Natasha the opportunity to lock horns again with Katie, and also Tasha's management company.
And it's 4 belts on the line as well, Tasha, which makes the scale of the event that much grander. Just mentioning that from Joe's perspective as well, old rivals reunited. This is something that you've clamoured for a couple of years now, and to finally get it's got to be an amazing feeling for all the marbles as well.
Yeah, I think from the minute I said I was turning pro, there was always like a build-up that someday we would collide. And obviously, the loss knocked me off course a little bit. But then I've got back on course, and this is, like Joe said, this is 9 years in the making. And just to contradict what you said before about the Harper fight, I don't think it is any different, because I'm still an underdog. I'm still being overlooked, and this is the chance for me to put my name out there and win the belts. And when people say I can't do it, that gives me more of the motivation to say that I can. So I don't think this situation is any different from the Harper fight, really and truly. It's just a bit, just getting more belts. That's it.
And the narrative as well that Joe's mentioned, we've mentioned as well. It's going to be mentioned all the way through the build up to the fight, is the fact that you faced each other in the Olympics, but that's a completely different scenario in terms of the way the layout of matches and the route to victory is in the professional ranks. How much do you actually take away from that experience in the build up to this one, or is it just a completely different scenario this time around?
For me, it's a completely different scenario. You've got, in the amateurs, you're trying to score points, and a knockdown is 1 point. It doesn't benefit you at all to be a heavy puncher, or and once you go behind and lose a few points, it's hard to catch them up within 4 rounds. Whereas in the pros, if you lose a round, you've got another 9 to catch it up. So there's not that much pressure, and when you have to try and get points back, you leave yourself open. And that's basically what happened in the amateurs, and I don't see that being the case in the pros. And we're 2 totally different fighters, and I think on the night I'll show this is 9 years of improvement.
And then from your perspective, Joe, and I'll ask yours as well, Tasha. Katie's had a couple of wars with Morson in the past few years. In terms of the damage that Katie took in those fights, both were toss-ups in terms of the decisions. What have you took away from those in terms of the damage she's took, and what Tasha can exploit in this one?
Yeah, I just don't think it's in them fights. I think Katie had a very extensive amateur career. She's had, I don't know how many, but it must be 100 plus amateur fights. Was on the Olympic cycle program a couple of times, been to all the world championships. So she fought an awful lot of times as an amateur. Then professional, she was straight into big fights quite early. If you look at her career early on, when she fought Jessica McCaskill in a big fight down at York Hall, and that was a tough fight that night. Obviously, the Define Passoon fights. Listen, Katie's 2-0, but that could be easily 2-0 the other way, or 1-1 at least. So they're hard fights, and them fights show Katie that she is talented. She has took the big step, has took the risks, but maybe there may be miles on the clock. We're not going into this fight though hoping Katie Taylor's got miles on the clock and damage. We're going in knowing what Tasha Jonas can do, and I know how hard Natasha's hitting. I said to someone today, Natasha, her learning curve. Athletes at a certain point, they learn and then the plateau, learn and the plateau. And Natasha for this fight, she's on a learning curve again. She's like a sponge. She's taking everything on board. She's adapting, applying, and it's mad because usually a lot of fighters at this stage of career stop learning. They don't want to carry on learning, but Natasha does. And yeah, we're really excited for this fight. So it isn't so much of Katie. Katie's got to be the best for Katie. If you read Katie's book, she says Natasha's been the hardest opponent, the one that hit her the hardest. So no matter what people say, Tasha's a big underdog, Katie Taylor will be training more so than she would have been fighting for Tafine Pursoon, because she knows the challenge that Natasha does. She won't be taking heed of what Sky or anyone else is saying, and we're not neither. We know Katie is a formidable opponent. She's a great world champion, and we've got to be at our best to beat her, and we want to beat the best Katie Taylor.
And then just your opinions on that,
There's not much to add to that, but exactly like Joe's just said, like lastly, like I want the best version of Katie. I don't want, there to be a win and then afterwards they're like, oh, she wasn't herself, or she's done this, she's done that. I want the best version of Katie, and the same, she'll want the best version of me, because that's the two athletes that we are. We want to be at their best, competing at their best.
And you've both been amazing global ambassadors for the sport of women's boxing. How great does it feel for you as an individual, Tasha, to be part of such a mega event? Because we've spoken about how it is the co-main event on a heavyweight card, but no one's really talking about the heavyweight fight. Everyone's talking about this. This should be the main event in many fans' opinions, including mine. Does it feel like a real piece of history, this one?
Yeah, I think so. But the thing about history is that you never appreciate it at the time. You don't see it for what it is, because I'm an athlete at a stage trying to, perform and reach a goal. So it's only when you look back that you'll appreciate the like how momentous of an occasion it was. The same with the Olympics. When I was there, I was just trying to compete to get a medal, but it was only when I retired and looked back that I appreciated how big that occasion was and what it did for the sport. But I've said it in an interview before, we should be making waves like that and making it easier for younger females and the ones coming behind us to be able to take that step and be on them cards and have a platform.
And just in terms of the message styles of you both, you've both shown yourself in the Terry Harper fight, and as we mentioned, Taylor in the Pursoon fights, that you can both go for a tear up if the styles demand that. And judging by those fights, it wouldn't be out the question really. But just in terms of the way your styles gel, what sort of fight do you anticipate?
I think that's given a little bit of the game plan, but what I will say is that for the Harper fight, we had every version of Harper, every best version that she could present, we had an answer for, and that's the same. We will have an answer for. I'll be putting my best foot forward, but whatever Katie comes with, I will have an answer for.
And Joe, we always discuss in these moments, it seems like the magnitude of these fights get bigger and bigger, and for yourself, it's an amazing achievement as a coach, securing these fights and getting these big moments for your fighters. But just in terms of what a win for Tasha would mean in your career as a coach, how would that fit on the mountain of achievements?
We've both planned to just drop the mic and that's it. We're out of there.
Yeah.
No, listen, the magnitude of the fight. This is one of the biggest female fights that can be made at the moment, and it's being made. So that's huge. Just because they're not American doesn't mean the fight is not as big as what it should be. As in America, they feel they've got to be Americans to be involved in the biggest fights in the world. But Natasha Katie Taylor is a huge fight. It's the biggest British-Irish fight there's been, will be, or ever will be for the foreseeable future. So we've got to enjoy the moment. I hope on the build-up to this, that respect is put on the name of Tasha Jonas, what she's achieved for boxing, for female boxing in this country. And I still don't know how there hasn't been an MBE, CBE, OBE, whatever, thrown her way for what she's done. Jane Couch did a fantastic job in her time, and Tasha Jonas has in her time, and she is still continuing to do so, being a mum and now obviously fighting Kate and Taylor, inspiring the next generation of girls coming through, fighting on the forefront all the time to increase women's pay in the sport. And like I say, her legacy will stand the test of time, more so now when she defeats Katie Taylor on May the 1st.
And then just for yourself, Tasha, you know, you mentioned you thrive in these underdog scenarios. Have you always looked at yourself as an underdog that's always looking to overachieve in your mind? And that's is a difficult way to phrase it, because you're undeniably amazingly talented, but you do like to thrive in that environment where your opponent may be looked at more so than in your case. Is that fair to say that you enjoy that?
I mean, there's a lot of pressure off when you are the underdog. But I think, you know, the lifestyle, the background, the upbringing, there's always been people putting barriers in my way and you know, thoughts of who I can be and who I can't be and who I should be. And I've fought my whole life to break all them barriers down. So, you know, when people say that I can't do something, it gives me more motivation to prove them absolutely wrong. And that's what I set out to do every single time.
Yeah. So these people that say these things don't actually realize that they're giving you more ammunition to go and achieve what you want to achieve. This is something that you've experienced your whole life. Exactly that. And then just in terms of training camp, obviously it's May the 1st now, so a few weeks out. How's it gone from both your perspectives?
The training's going very well. Tasha's been in the gym all the time. We've got a couple of weeks left. We're just fine-tuning a few things. It's tough at the moment. We're in the tough part of camp when we're doing the big rounds, the big sparring. And but like I said, I touched on earlier, she's learning, she's adapting, she's applying. And I said it to someone the other day. I'll be sorry when Tasha finishes boxing, because she's a real pleasure to coach.